Hey guys, how's it going? This will probably be a shorter one as I'm just going through making sure I'm updating um, data and stuff for upcoming videos, working on stuff for March and everything like that. And I wanted to touch on the Atlanta with Daytona sheet as I'm just working on that right now. Also, at this point, I have several videos out already. The how to pull data back in December, and then I have 3 videos out already. If you haven't seen those, they're talking about the distribution of fast laps and laps led between all 3 series, and then I have one talking about the Bowman Gray race, or at least the first preview of that by looking at the LA Clash data. This one will be going back towards the little experiment that I ran, and if you know me, you know that I love plate races. They have been some of the most successful, if not the most successful, races of my entire DFS career and stuff. And entering New Atlanta, if you haven't seen this, I'll kind of walk you through it a long time ago, or I'll walk you through it. When they reconfigured Atlanta, as somebody who spends hours and hours, just each week watching old NASCAR races and stuff, I had a hunch or a feeling that we could use old Daytona data pre-repave, going all the way back from the first race in 2001. Big Rip Dale, just give him room in the inside lane. What are you doing? All the way to the repave, which was the first race in 2010. I wasn't necessarily concerned about what car they were running, as this was much more of a driver's track. It was much more of a track where setups came into play, so I wasn't concerned that we were, dipping our toes into the car tomorrow, or also using the Gen 4 in car tomorrow. I wasn't concerned about that. I just wanted to specifically look at where the finishes were coming from in a track that I perceived as, a driver's track that you would use. Very similar types of styles and driving towards what New Atlanta is. And I've already updated the average finish one. And the only one I haven't done that I'm going to do live here is the average Atlanta finish. So what we're looking at here is the average finish of all these races together. And, I've gone in detail about why I used Old Daytona. I mean, I gave you a small snippet there. We'll go much more in detail the week of Atlanta. Also, side note, I will be at both Atlanta races again this year, just because that's the best track on the circuit. Why are you going to any other track? But the average finish on the right side is the average finish of all these races together. So we're looking at 20-ish something Daytona races, if I'm not mistaken. I believe, yeah, we have all of them, including any rain delay races or rain ended races anyway. And then we have all 6 Atlanta races that we've had so far, and little asterisks around beginning Atlanta when they're like fumbling around, like, oh, how are we doing? What are we doing at this new track? So like the first race is bit of an asterisk, but as we've gone through, who just DM me on the Discord? What's going on here? I was gone for several minutes. I try and usually continue whatever sentence I was working with. I have no idea what I was talking about before I did that. Anywho, this will be broken down in more detail when we get to the Atlanta week and stuff like that, obviously. But I just wanted to kind of do a live look at what it looks like adding more of this stuff. And so I have not. I mean, on this one, obviously, I've added. We're on Daytona. Whoops. Obviously, I've added, column E. I have not done it to the rest, so let's see how close this gets to the other data points. Oops, didn't mean to do that. Too far down. Also, what in the world? Whatever, good enough. Have we never had? How many people do we have start Atlanta? Hold on a minute. We've never had 39 cars at Atlanta. Interesting. Got bamboozled. Also, another side note, if if you're a person who makes projections and stuff like that, the fact that NASCAR can add the 41st car, like obviously DraftKings will like update on whatever, like we don't have to DM DraftKings what's going to happen when you add a 41 car, but like the fact that that's going to just mess up everything everybody has for scoring and stupid stuff like this is insane. Anyway, as we continue to look around, now the Daytona, which very quickly, kind of running down of what we're seeing from each one is when we look at Daytona, specifically the 500, you will have good drivers start in the back of the field due to provisionals, due to locking their way in, due to whatever, even though they might be good cars. Okay, and crazy enough, we had Denny Hamlin start last at Atlanta this last time. And specifically, when we look at the fall race at Atlanta, super big chalk on Hamlin's part, and Hamlin rode in the back of the field all day, deliberately, strategically, rode in the back of the field all day. He never lost the draft. I think I have a video of it on my YouTube, but we'll look at that when we get to actually Atlanta. But Denny Hamlin rode in the back of the field all day and waited for the crash that never came. Okay, so we have had an Atlanta race so far that went pretty much green to the end. Very little DNFs here. The only DNFs we had at Atlanta were Kyle Larson, Chase Briscoe. Let this reload here. Come on now, let's go. Let's see. Let's get it going. We had Larson, Briscoe, Busher, Gregson, and Harrison Burton. Outside of that, we did not, and Truex Jr. late in the race. Outside of that, we did not have a lot of wrecks at this Atlanta race. For the majority of the Atlanta finishes we have had, or races we've had a lot more people be involved in wrecks. We've had bigger wrecks and stuff like that. And if anything, this race, when we look back at old school Daytona, this reminded me a lot of a lot of the Pepsi 400 races that we used to have back in the day, to where we would have not a lot of crashes. We had, we would have like wrecks or whatever, but like this Atlanta race was the first one that we saw actually go pretty green to the end. And, sure, we wreck out of 4 on the last lap, whatever the case may be, but we're wrecking for last at that point anyway. This Atlanta race screams to me old school Daytona. So when we start adding these Atlanta races with the old Daytona stuff, and this isn't, this is just where I like to try and envision of where I need to be going on projections on drivers and whatnot. We're slowly, getting closer and closer to the Daytona performances of the old school Daytona stuff. I mean, when we look at where we're at now, at this point, now we have a sample size. When this first started in 2022, we knew it'd be we knew it'd be 3 to 4 years before we'd have really enough sample size to start really accurately looking and comparing between these two races. And this isn't even looking at the Xfinity, who typically goes green, and the trucks, who typically go green as well. This is just looking at Cup, but we really do start to see the numbers start getting very, very similar to one another in almost a shocking fashion. Now, what am I looking for? Probably within 2 to 3 numbers, if anything. I'd prefer it to be closer than that. But we start looking at where, and also I have the one thing I haven't done, which I'm kind of just doing this off the cuff right now, is I haven't updated the optimals for the last 2 Atlanta races last year, just because I'm kind of doing this in the moment. And this is more so, set up for, the Atlanta video after the Daytona 500 that I'll be making, obviously. And then I have the hypothetical, optimals for all the old Daytona races and stuff. But also, and this is, I haven't carried this over yet. This is what the old averages were before we started adding so many of these races here. But you start looking at these, and we're getting numbers that are pretty similar, like almost uncanny. Like, I don't really know why, like 8th place specifically out of the top 10, like picking the guy who starts 8th. Also, this is starting position and then finishing position. If you haven't told that, who, for whatever reason, the guy who starts 8th is just not performing at all, like in any of these situations. Crazy, right? Same with 17th. It's statistically one of the worst Atlanta finishes that we've had, outside of 8th and 10th. and it's one of the worst like finishes that you can have at Daytona if you start 17th. We start seeing a lot of the place differential that you end up needing or competing to either win the race or get top fives and stuff, specifically at, the recent Atlanta races just last year, are coming in the mid-20s. And then, I mean, even the fact that, like, Hamlin started last and still finished 24th. I mean, that's still, yeah, sure. I'm sure a lot of people were mad at the time, but I don't even see that as a bad thing. Hamlin rode all day waiting for the yellow that just never came. That's gonna happen. We've all been there. If you're playing plate races on DraftKings like I do, you're literally in the same boat as Hamlin. You were just waiting for the crash to happen. It just never did. He only gained 14 positions. Didn't kill you, but pretty much killed a lot of the chalk that he had. But you're still seeing, if you're starting, 38th, 37th, you can automatically ride up like 12 place differential, if not more. I mean, if you are starting last and second to last, and this isn't even talking about like bad drivers. When we look at the people who started last in the back of the field last year, if I can get this stupid thing to load, I have so many tabs open right now. We gonna load? We might crash. We gotta pause again. All right. Okay. We look back at where they started last year. I mean, this 24th here is Denny Hamlin. This is J.J. Yaley in the 44 car, finishing 23rd. This is B.J. McLeod, John Hernimacek, who's caught up in a crash late in the race, had a much better day ahead. Zane Smith, Eric Jones, who I would argue Denny Hamlin, Eric Jones, Ryan Blaney, Kyle Busch had the best handling cars of the day. Eric Jones, Denny Hamlin weren't able to take advantage of that because they just kind of rode waiting for the crash. Now you can. I always like people who do that. I like drivers who typically do that. Sometimes it's just not going to happen. It's just not going to work. Like, they're not going to get in a crash. But I would argue those drivers are the ones that had the best cars. Jones was running higher than everybody the entire day, and I don't even know if this is on the broadcast because he was running like fucking ass last in the back of the field. But he was running like 3 milli-inches off the wall all day, never got in the wall, was able to make moves when he needed to. He just ran into issues of the fact that we didn't have a yellow late, and then, when you get down to like 12 to go, 10 to go, and 20 to go, then people just start racing stupid. But I firmly believe Eric Jones could have won this race. Same thing with Denny Hamlin. They just never got their yellows. But you see, where they're finishing. I mean, this is situations to where bad cars, specifically, people like, Cody Ware, same thing. Cody Ware rode in the back all day, started 31st, finished 30th. We just didn't have the yellow to come out. You have Daniel Suarez finishing second. You have Justin Haley finishing 12th, SVG 32nd, Ricky Stenhouse 14th, Bell 4th, Corey LaJoie 15th, Bubba Wallace 29th, Tyler Reddick 6th. I mean, Atlanta, in my opinion, is absolutely old school Daytona. And I'm so happy, because I was saying that before anybody. You go back 3 years, in early 2022, late 2021, I was absolutely on the forefront of that opinion. Now we're seeing that in Twitter comments and YouTube comments, probably by other DFS touts at this point. I know for a fact nobody's been saying that before me, because I was, every year I was like, if anybody mentions Daytona, they heard it from me, right? But this really is, leaning more and more towards old school Daytona. And the reason this was such an experiment, or this, in my opinion, was such an important experiment, and yet again, old Daytona had 43 cars. We're getting closer to filling out 40-car fields nowadays. But if you're needing data, if you're needing, more finishing position data related to either your personal sim, I guess personal sim would be the only way. Like, you're not throwing the stuff at any other thing. But, like, if you're making projections, if you're working on your own sims, if you're doing anything like that, we can absolutely use old school Daytona. I mean, you could probably go back more and use stuff from the 90s. I'm not necessarily doing that because there was such a, I didn't feel comfortable using races before 2001, only due to the fact that it was kind of more unpredictable. When you look back at the true great era of Gen 4 racing at Daytona, I think it's 2001 forward. Once you start getting in the 2000s and late 90s and stuff, I'm not as confident in that data being useful. But at this point, we have, what is this? 1, 2, 4, 6. And we got like 30 races of data here. With my opinion, looking at all this stuff, this is the average Atlanta finish, Daytona finish, and an average finish in these two together. Let me make sure that we are working here. K2, what is? Yeah. I'm more than happy with how all this is looking here. Anyway, I just want to make a short video on that as I'm getting stuff, getting sheets and shit ready for the season. It's working, and I'm very, very happy to see this. And the fact that these numbers, I mean, like uncanny, right? If you start 38th at Atlanta, yet again, just one race, right? 24th, average Daytona 23.68. Together 23.7. You look at this here. If you start 37th, average finish is 23.25 at Atlanta. Daytona 23.75, 23.65. I mean, look how close. I'm so thrilled that I was correct about this. I'm so happy. Maybe that's why I just made this video. I'm thrilled with these results. Anyway, thank you for being here and listening really fast. More videos to come. Yeah. See you guys later.